Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. And welcome back, everybody. Officially, just barely a week or so, we have a new top leader, if you will, at the helm of our country. He is a leader, whether you believe in what he's doing or not. We don't do politics here, but, you can't take it away. He is leading our country. And I'm sure there's some challenges there. But when you take it down a couple of rings on the ladder, many leaders have challenges that they're dealing with, and this gentleman helps them overcome those challenges, which invariably include changes. He does an amazing job with many different leaders, and not just on the coaching level, but he does workshops and keynote speaking. He's got a book out, so much more. Reggie Bullock is back on the program with us. How are you doing today, sir? I'm
well, Steve. Thank you very much. How are you doing?
Real good, real good. Happy you're back with us. We always get a lot of great insight. Give us some insight on what people are saying, people that you work with, leaders. I always want to get into that mind of somebody that has a big responsibility in leading a company, leading a team. Maybe it's their own business. Doesn't matter, but there's a lot going on there. What do you hear for the most part nowadays?
Well, a lot of people are nervous, right? Because with all of the executive orders that have been released, that's change. It's new. It's an impact. Some anticipated it, some did not. No matter how you look at it, it's change. And for leaders, the change is not just impacting them, it's impacting everybody that works for them, right? So no matter what your political choices are, you still fall under the policies, rules, regulations, laws of the United States. And they're wondering, how do they navigate this new space, particularly in many instances where they may or may not agree with it. So I am having to help them do what I call a mindset reset, right? Once upon a time, we thought the world was flat, and it wasn't. But everybody, based on all of their doctrine and thought process, thought it was flat. And when they were told it was round, many didn't believe it, and they continued to think the world was flat. They were not going anywhere because they would fall off the face of the planet, right? And so they needed a mindset reset. Well, I'm not comparing it to now of falling off the face of the earth, but what I am saying is sometimes we just have to reset our minds and look at the future and not at the past.
You bring up a point that I feel there for a moment. What if you're part of a company, a situation, and you're not feeling what upper management is directing you to do, but you now have to lead a team, and you can't go in this direction because that's not what has been set forth by, let's say, the stockholders, whatever it might be. How do you navigate if you're not truly believing in something?
Yeah, that's hard for some people. And what I try to tell people is go back to the bottom line. Most positions, jobs, are, at the end of the day, a transaction. You're being paid for your time. You're being paid for your services. And therein lies your duties and responsibilities, your position description, etc. So you don't necessarily have to like anything that the company wants you to do. As a matter of fact, you can dislike everything that the company wants you to do. But it also means that you probably shouldn't be at that company.
Well, memory just came back. Like your parents, you don't like it, then you can leave.
Well, it's kind of like that. Unfortunately, the people who are working for the company may not agree with that. But if there are policies, rules, and regulations that you have to carry out, that you have to administer, and you disagree with them, and it goes against your ethos, your ethics, or your values, your morals, your religion, etc. Well, how many jobs are there in the United States, right? And so to that end, perhaps they need to look for something different because it is a transaction. And, he who holds the purse strings wins, right? And so to that extent, whether you're working for a private company or the government, at the end of the day, you made a choice and you also made an agreement. And you got to now make a decision.
And maybe when you made that initial agreement, the playing field was different. Somebody, they Maybe they have new owners. They just came in and they've changed things a bit. I personally feel that it's a recipe for failure at some point if you're not fully vested. You're a leader and you're not fully vested in what the situation is. I don't see how you can put your all into it and lead the team to this goal or this principle if you're not buying it. I don't see how that's possible.
Unless you're going to change and do a mindset reset,
Okay.
It's going to be a challenge. It's going to be a conflict. I mean, there are mainly two things in this world that makes money: products and services. So if you are creating a widget, new leadership comes to a manufacturer and say, we're no longer making tires, we're now making doors. And you are a tire expert and you don't like doors, but you're going to make doors. You got a choice because the manufacturer is going to be making doors with or without you. So it's a challenging situation for so many people because there's a lot of emotion stirred up in it. I mean, I give credit for the Tuskegee Airmen, which is why in the military I was able to flourish, right? And there are policies against the Tuskegee Airmen now. And so you have to make a choice.
Yeah.
This is not our first rodeo. We've been through this in the 80s. We've been through this in the 2000s. And so here we are going through it again. But it does come down to choice. And as a coach, when I'm coaching leaders, the first thing I remind them is that they're leaders. And sometimes you have to compartmentalize. And are you leading the people for your team, for your organization, for the government, or are you leading the people for yourself? And you have to make that distinction.
You bring back a personal memory for me. And I didn't think of this until we were actually discussing it, but I was at a job for a lot of years. It was really successful, got to tell you. And it was early in my career, and I stayed there for a long time, but things changed. And the direction, I hosted a morning show, they were going in a different direction. It was kind of a rude and crude direction, and that's not me. And sat with it for a little while. It was over a period of time. I looked at other jobs in the company, wasn't feeling right. And, just to this point, we were selling tires. Now we're selling steering wheels. It wasn't feeling right. And
Right.
I woke up after a lot of soul searching. It was a tough one. I woke up on a Monday and I went to work and said, Wednesday will be my last day. And that was it. And I walked away from it. And I'm happy I did because other doors opened up, but it
Right.
was a tough decision because it just didn't feel right. And I guess that's how it goes. After a while, it's you're making tires and now they change. It doesn't feel right anymore.
And I think that's kind of where we are right now, at least with a lot of the leaders that are calling me, texting me, emailing me, messaging me. And, they're sitting in that space of a quandary because they have to make change. And, to some extent, right, it can impact your economics. You might have children in college. You might be buying a house, or you may be deep in debt. And so all of these factors are part of your decision. And it's hard for some people. But from a leadership perspective, what I decided to do, I created a 25% flash sale on my 6-session coaching package and just blasted it out there because I know that there are a lot of people who need leadership coaching. And, unfortunately for some, the price is beyond their range. And so to that extent, I figured I'd reduce the price significantly. For 60 days, they can come in and take advantage of it because I'm listening to all of this, right? And so for government people, of course, they can do it on a contract because I'm certified with the government. But people need help. And as a coach, I'm listening to this. And so I'm just doing my part to say, hey, here I am. I can help you.
You make it exciting. Even just saying, flash sale. It's kind of fun and cool. It's like, what, I'm going to take advantage of that. I'm going to change my situation, up my game. Change. Let's go with that. Many of whatever we're talking about, everything we're talking about here involves change. How does somebody embrace change and not let it rock their world?
Yeah. So it doesn't happen instantly, and there's a lot of self-awareness that needs to occur. And it depends on what that change is, right? Because, I tell clients everybody has at least one disorder, maybe several. And I'm not a therapist, so I don't pretend to be. The
I
therapist.
want to press pause right there, if I may, with all due respect. Say that again, because nobody ever says that, but it's so true.
What? I'm not a therapist?
No, the right before that.
Oh,
Everybody has a disorder.
everybody has at least one disorder, and
It's
maybe
true.
several, right? And so
Yeah.
whether we embrace it or not, whether we know it or not, and whether we do anything about it or not, that's a different story.
Yeah.
But we're human, we're flawed, we're imperfect, and some of us, just have some challenges and issues that we've not gotten past. And so to that extent, when change shows up, it depends on where you are with your own self-awareness, where you are with your own emotional intelligence,
Mm.
that you might be totally resistant to change. I'm not doing it, period. I don't even listen to it. I'm not doing it, right? And so something's blocking you, and your saboteur is sabotaging you, as opposed to your sage helping you in the PQ, positive intelligence. And so to that end, when that change happens, I tell people the first thing you do is breathe. Now, if you were to look at your entire life, assess how many times you've gone through change. It is so many times you can't even count it, right? So to that end, sometimes you embrace the change that you like, and sometimes you embrace the change you don't like. But it's going to happen, at least in this case. He is the president of the United States, elected by the majority of the people. Done. So the change is going to happen. But you have to take a look in the mirror and assess yourself, because if you've not walked this type of journey before, it's going to be hard. If you're the type of person that's not open to change, it's going to be difficult. If you're the kind of person that believes it's my way or the highway, or the way you see it is the only way, you're going to be getting in your own way. And so
Mm.
as a leadership coach, when I listen to people and I coach people through change, it starts off with, are there anything, are there anything out there that's relevant that you want to tell me that you need to overcome? Because if there are barriers, then we have to get past that first before we can even address the change. Yeah, because it could be
Mm.
holding you back.
Now, when change is inevitable,
Yeah.
do you need to really see if that change aligns with your standards and your values? Because if it's going against your grain, you have to make that. It's going to be tough. And I guess that was in my situation. It went against what I believe in, so I made a change. But if you're feeling that it's just not aligning, is that really the determining factor of what you're going
Not
to do?
always, because you could actually be wrong, right? Your alignment with your values could be based on many different things, to include culture. And, our inputs determine who we are. Not all of our inputs are proper, are good, are factual, are right.
Mm.
And so to that extent, it depends on how did you come about your values? How did you come about this ethos or this understanding of how life should be that you have settled in on, that this is right? Because it could be wrong.
Mm.
All right. And so if you are open-minded enough to at least evaluate all of the facts and all of the information, and then make a determination, okay, that's fine. If you are so set in your ways that it clashes with your values and you will not do it, that's fine too, right? And because at the end of the day, you got to make a choice, and then you have to live with your choice, right or wrong. You're going to make a choice, and then after that, you're going to live with your choice or consequence or repercussions, right? Or benefits, And so to that end, you're going to do it. You're going to put it out there and see what comes back. And so nobody's perfect. You're not going to get it right every single time, but having an open mind to at least evaluate as much as you can, so that you can anticipate the repercussions or the consequences or the good stuff.
Mm.
I think it's at least worth a conversation. And that's where coaches come in.
Absolutely. And that's wherein lies what we said before. Actually, you mentioned it, the mindset reset. That could be the checks and balances on your moral compass and your standards and whatever, pilots you they may not be founded. They may be off a little bit, but until you do that deep dive with somebody else, you're really not going to know. You just think you know.
Yes. I mean, in the 60s and 70s, the majority of the people smoked cigarettes. I remember when there were ashtrays on the airplane in the armrest,
Yeah.
right? And everywhere you go, there were ashtrays. And so it was a culture of smoking. Now, some countries still have that culture, but the United States changed that culture. And that had to be a mindset reset.
Mm.
And to some people, it still is, right? I'm going to smoke, I'm going to die from something. They have all of the reasons why they smoke. But the point is choice. So if you choose to keep smoking, what's going to happen? If you choose not to smoke, what's going to happen? And so, again, like I said earlier, all our life we go through many different types of changes. We just don't think about them in parallel to what we're dealing with now. But smoking was a culture. It was on, radio, television, newspaper, advertising.
Yeah.
You've been in radio, so I remember I went to an old record store called Rock and Soul. It used to be on 7th Avenue, and now it's on 37th between 6th and 5th. And I met with the owner, and I remember we used to walk in there and you could smoke inside there, right? And so change is everywhere, everywhere.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people who embraced to stop smoking early, they can look back and talk about it. But that's just one example of change that's so subtle and quiet, but it was very prevalent in the 60s and 70s.
It's funny. I had this conversation with somebody not even 24 hours ago. I traded in a car, and after I had traded in the car, I realized that I had the ashtray. I didn't even know it had an ashtray because that section was, I would keep change in there. If I run into a convenience store, I get a quarter or whatever, grab it. And the ashtray sat in that little area.
Right.
And even when I found the ashtray, I'm like, what is this? Oh, that's it. Where did this come? Oh, that's from the car. Yes. It's,
I mean, when's the last time you got in a car that has a cigarette lighter?
that also came up in conversation, and I use that cigarette lighter for just a vacuum, whatever.
Yeah. So I mean, but the actual glow plug, right?
Right.
Culturally, every single car had to have one,
And every kid played with it too.
smoking was a cultural element in the United States that assumed that if you had a car, you're going to need this little glow plug to light your cigarette.
Yeah. How do you embrace the change? Now it's upon you. The fear comes into mind, and what do we say? Most things we fear don't transpire. We're just wasting our time and our energy in terms of worrying about the change. But how do you get that? How do you build some back so that change doesn't rock you so much?
Practice.
Yeah.
Practice. So the more you embrace change, the more you go through change management, the more you overcome some of these obstacles. And to your example, the boogeyman that doesn't exist, right? The more you work on that part of your brain to understand yourself, that's the self-awareness, then it's easier, I don't want to say to embrace change, but to at least respect it, see it, look at all of the facts, do a little bit of analysis on it, and just take a pause and a breath before you pass judgment. And so if you can do that before you pass judgment, you have at least embraced the process of change. And so now, if you've done it many, many, many times, then you have experience, right?
Sure.
And you gain your experience from screwing up so many times. The more you mess up, the more experience you get. And then when you have a ton of experience, they call it wisdom, right? So, but you don't get that experience by getting it right all of the time. So with the change, it's hard. And some people culturally or environmentally or however they were raised, they don't see it the way other people see it. And so this is the way I see it. I'm my way or the highway. And so they need somebody to help them navigate that space. And that's where, leadership coaches come in, where we allow you to see it from different perspectives from your own mindset. not from Reggie's. I'm not going to just tell you my perspective because I'm not the one that's being coached. It's all about you. So I would help Steve navigate Steve's headspace just to see if Steve can take a look at some other things that Steve could embrace, right? And so the more you do that, and then you see positives come out of it, the ultimate book that I tell people about, and I even coach from this sometimes, is Sam I Am, Green Eggs and Ham, right? It is the ultimate change book, right? And so,
Wow.
I mean, and so, I do like them here or there. I will eat them on a plane. I will eat them on a train. I do like Green Eggs and Ham. I like them, Sam I Am. It is the prime example of what you're talking about. And oh, by the way, we call him the cat in the hat, but in the book, he has no name. And so the point is that person embraced change eventually, but Sam I Am was the leadership coach and navigated him over a period of time until that change happened.
I find it very interesting that he was called Sam I Am. And I am is one of the most powerful statements you can ever make. No, seriously.
It is.
Right?
It is.
You can, and it's been said, just keep repeating. Whatever you are, I am strong. I am resilient. And I never put the two and two together. I don't know if that was intentional to Sam I Am, but.
Well, and that's part of the change, right? Because when you say I am, you're now strengthening who you are based on who you want to be. And now it's that self-talk that's going on over and over in your head. And it gives you that strength to make change.
Mm. And I just realized this, that when you say I am, you're living in the now.
Yes. Not the past. Right. You're living in the now.
Wow. Interesting. I get downloads from songs. I've played music on the radio for decades. And the one that drops in my mind is a song by David Bowie called Changes. And some of the lyrics go, changes, turn and face the strange. And time may change me, but I can't trace time. And turning and facing the strange, it's to me, that sounds like there's a change coming. Turn around and meet it head on instead of hiding from the change, because that's going to get you nowhere.
Well, for some people, again, if it's the first time, it's hard to embrace change.
100%.
For those that have done it many times, it becomes easier. And then the more you do it, then to your point, you turn and you just deal with it. Just embrace it. It's coming. But again, we put our hands over our eyes, in total denial that as long as we can't see it, it doesn't exist. That's human also. That's a reality. And so part of the coaching is to get people to take their hands down and recognize that denial is not going to achieve you anything other than more denial. And the more you embrace change, then the stronger you get as a leader, right? And remember, I keep saying I'm a leadership coach. Everybody's not a leader. So for some people, my style of coaching is not for them. But if you are a leadership coach and I'm coaching you, it can be a contact sport.
Nice. Love it. Best way to reach you is your website, and that's your name, right?
Yeah, www.reggiebullock.com is the easiest way to reach me. Go on my website. There's a lot of good information there about coaching, about consulting. Of course, if I'm selling my packages and the prices and things like that. But there's a lot of information. And of course, you can reach me through that.
Always great talking with you, Reggie. Learn so much, validates a lot as well, and truly appreciate it. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Steve. You have a good week.
You too. We'll be right back. Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Of course my kid's in the right car seat. Well, I think he is.
Yeah, my kid's in a booster seat. He was ready to move up. He is ready, right?
Her car seat looks like the right size.
There are probably rules on when to move up to a booster seat, aren't there?
Rear facing, forward facing. I think I have it right.
Car crashes are a leading killer of children 1 to 13. Are your children in the right car seat for their age and size? Don't think you know you know. Go to safercar.gov/the right seat.
I know my child's in the right car seat, or else I wouldn't get in the driver's seat.
Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.